As entrepreneurs, we love variety, right? I want to try this, I want to try that. I teach my students treat their business like a racehorse, run it like a racehorse, which means stay in your lane, put your blinders on, don't look left or right, and just continue to do the same thing over and over again, longer than you might want to, so you become known for something. So this is not a brag, this is just a fact. If there's a room of entrepreneurs and someone says, I want to create a digital course, who could help me? I know my name's going to come up. And that's just years and years and years of staying in my lane and doing my job well.
You're listening to the StoryBrand Podcast, based on Donald Miller's best-selling book, Building a Story Brand. The StoryBrand framework is made up of 7 key elements, all of them anchored in one powerful idea. Your customer is the hero, and you are their guide. Each week on the podcast, you'll get exactly what you need to craft clear messaging that connects with more customers and grows your business. Now let's dive in with your hosts, Donald Miller and Kyle Reed.
Amy, thanks so much for sitting down with us. I think this is to be like the 5th time we've had you on a podcast.
A lot. You guys must love me.
We do love you. Honestly, we're like, hey, what's Amy Porterfield doing about every quarter? Can we have her back? Because there's so much we have to talk about.
I love it. Let's do it.
So today, I'm super excited to talk to you. We've been talking a lot about StoryBrand, about messaging, and how do you clarify that? How do you work with your messaging for your customers, for your clients, whatever that is? One thing I'm interested to talk to you about today is you have been kind of making a little bit of a shift in your business. You've been known for something for a long time. You've done it really, really well, but you're kind of seeing a little bit different a path. And I'm curious, first off, if you could kind of tell us what you've been noticing and kind of shifting a little bit.
Yep.
What were you known for and what you do? But how do you communicate that to your customers, being known for something versus now you're kind of taking them in a different direction?
I love this question. So yes, for about 16 years, I've been known for helping people create and launch digital courses. So taking your expertise, your know-how, your skill set, and packaging that up into a course so you could sell over and over again. So a lot of people that work one-on-one with clients or service-based business, and they really want more longevity and scalability in their company, create a course. And it has been a true pleasure and incredibly successful. And we have generated over $120 million in sales in the business.
That
Crazy,
blows
right?
my mind.
And most
of
that is like the last 5 or 6 years. So it's really just been on fire. It's been great. And over the last year or so, I've had this calling on my heart that I wanted to dive deeper in with my students. And so when you sell digital courses, it's one-to-many, which is the beautiful thing about it. But I've been in this game for a long time. And I started a mastermind a year ago of women that were making $1 million or more in their business and wanted to scale. And when I did this, I sent out applications and I got tons back. And I noticed there's a lot of women, maybe not making $1 million, but really want the coaching and really want to get deeper. And I read all these applications, their challenges, what they're doing, what they're working on. And I thought, I am the girl for that. I know what they need. And I just felt it in my body. And I thought, I think I'm ready for a shift. Here's the secret though. I didn't just wake up that morning, read all these applications, see where I could help people and change my business like that. This was a year ago that I saw that. So just slowly but surely, I've been thinking, what could I do? What might this look like? And I started to create smaller programs around it. And just this month, we decided we're going all in.
Wow.
And so in the new year, we've developed a new coaching program for women making a lot less, but wanting to scale their business. And I gravitate toward women because I believe that women in business navigate different than men. And I love the gentlemen. I have tons in my program.
Thank you.
But for this coaching program and for the ones that we're creating, I really want to get deeper with these women. And so to answer your question, how do we do that? How do we pivot this message? Very, very slowly and respectfully. Because I have a lot of people in my audience that I've supported for many years. I just launched my digital course program in September, so we have new students. So I want to stay very present and very available for them. As slowly but surely, we are starting to pivot our message. And we've used StoryBrand to do so. And we're being very, very aware of who this woman is, where she is, and what she needs right now. And we're sprinkling it throughout a little bit more. We've done this for a few months now, but we'll never just like make an announcement. We're not supporting XYZ anymore, and now we're moving to this. It's just all a subtle shift over time.
Yeah, it's funny. You talked about the difference a little bit with women and men. And I think, not to stereotype, but I think the temptation would be like, and now we don't do this anymore.
Exactly.
But like you're like just EQ, kind of how you're paying attention to that.
Ease into
loving
it.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, so as you've been going through that process, making this shift, I love that you said, hey, we've been thinking about this for about a year. Have you been trying some different messages? How have you kind of figured out what's resonating? What are people gravitating towards? What's been kind of that process like?
I also love this question because this is my favorite part.
Okay.
We're doing two things very specifically. My newsletter three. My newsletter, my podcast, and my social.
Okay.
We've done so much experimenting. So for example, in my newsletter, in April, I started a new newsletter. I'm obsessed with it. I write it. It's not my copywriter. I tell stories. I lean into what my audience is going through right now. And we are writing it for a little bit more of an elevated audience than we were supporting before. So it is speaking to someone who's a little bit more experienced in business. And in that, we take polls, we have them reply back, we engage with them. And the feedback we're getting is so incredible of where these women are, what they need, and where they're struggling. So right there, and is our message landing? Yeah. So our newsletter and doing polls and surveys inside of it have helped immensely. We're very data driven. And then in social media, we will try different messaging that's kind of different than what we've done in the past, and see how people engage with it. Some of it works, some of it totally flops and doesn't do well. But again, every week we're looking at the metrics of our social. Are we getting more followers? We survey the followers. Are they the right ones? So social, newsletter, and then in my podcast. I rebranded my podcast from Online Marketing Made Easy to the Amy Porterfield Show. I knew I was talking to a woman that had already started her business and already making money. And so that messaging has subtly shifted as well. But we look at the downloads and we see what they're responding to. So those are the three touch points that we're checking in. Are we getting this right?
Yeah. Okay. So if I'm listening to you talk and I'm kind of in my business and maybe I've done something for a little bit, I want to make a pivot.
Yeah.
Talk me through that process when you kind of came to that realization.
Yeah.
And then kind of from, I love that we're getting to kind of right before you're launching here. How did you lead that out?
Yes. So when I felt it on my heart and I knew I wanted to do this, one thing that's important, I teach my students to treat their business like a racehorse, run it like a racehorse, which means stay in your lane, put your blinders on, don't look left or right, and just continue to do the same thing over and over again, longer than you might want to, so you become known for something. And so over the years, I've become known for someone to teach you how to create and launch digital courses. So this is not a brag. This is just a fact that if there's a room of entrepreneurs and someone says, I want to create a digital course, who could help me? I know my name's going to come up. And that's just years and years and years of staying in my lane and doing my job well. So longer than maybe I even wanted to, because as entrepreneurs, we love variety, right? I want to try this, I want to try that. I'm like a dog with a bone. I have stayed with one thing for a long time, and it has financially served me and it has served my brand very well. So one is to stay in your lane and become known for something. I think that's very important. And do not make that pivot or shift out of boredom. So I had to ask myself a year ago, are you bored? Are you looking for variety? Or is this something truly you think you can make a big difference in? So that I got honest with myself first. Once I did that, then I decided that I've earned this elevation. I have earned the right to coach these women to a new stage of their business because I've done it myself and I've worked on this for many years. So I'm qualified. A lot of times, this was me early on. My first course, I created a course to help people launch a book. Never launched a book in my life and wouldn't have for another 15 years. So that failed miserably. I was just desperate. It's this desperate energy. I need to be known for something. But I chose something I had no skill in. So I've built up this skill over time. And so anyone wanting to make a pivot, first ask yourself, am I just bored? And do I need a little variety in my life? And maybe I can find it in my personal life, but stay in my lane longer.
That is a really good point.
Yeah.
I actually that makes so much sense. I've not paused to think about that, but that's such I love that how you do that too. You're not jumping to the next thing.
No.
You're really internally thinking about that. I think I want to honor that you're being that intentional.
Very.
Not just for your customers, but for your team as well, because I think they can feel it. And I think that's a really good point for myself, for people listening, of like asking that question first of, am I bored? Or is this really shifting and I've earned it? I think you said that too. And I think that's a really important point. Earn that authority. And I think, okay, so as you're working through this and you're messaging it, have you got any, not backlash, but have you had people who know you for one thing, or maybe have been a loyal customer, or someone, have you gotten a little like, hey, what's going on here? And how do you handle that?
So I've gotten some people like, what do you mean? You have a multi-million-dollar course that every time you launch it, it's successful. Why would you ever move away from it? That was the first question. And then another thing I get is, well, why can't you do both? And right now, I haven't made a full decision, but right now I am putting my program on hold. I am going all in.
Wow.
You've heard the book, 10X is easier than 2X.
I haven't. No.
Okay, great book.
Okay.
Dan Sullivan, Dr. Benjamin Hardy.
Oh,
And,
okay.
Yeah.
The scaling book too. They wrote.
They just wrote a scaling book.
Okay. Yes.
So Benjamin did, but
Yes.
10X is easier than 2X. It's this concept of we have so many distractions that are 2X distractions, but if you zero it in on one thing and went big, what would that look like? And so I'm looking at all these 2X distractions that I had to be careful of. So when someone says, well, why don't you just do both right now? Because one is going to be a distraction and one's not going to get the attention it needs. So the way I look at it is that I'm very intentional. I know what I want to do. And when someone says, well, coaching, and you haven't really done that a lot in your business, I've always said that I didn't want to do coaching in my business. And I'm just giving myself permission to change my mind.
Yeah.
And it feels right in the moment. But again, it is a big gut thing. But you mentioned team. And I think that's important. I have a team of 20 full-time employees all over the US. And so I did not talk to them about this for about 6 months. And I did two things. One, I have mentors in my life. I have a business coach. I have a mindset coach. I went to them first. I think as entrepreneurs, we should have a team behind us of support, not our team, but people just to support us. And so I've talked a lot about it through my coaches. Then I went to my CEO and my CMO and all of that. So I'm a baby step kind of girl. But when we went to the team, we really had to create a vision, but say, we don't know what we're doing here. Like I've never had salespeople or setters. That's a new word I learned, like the sales teams and setters. And I've never had high end, like it's a $7,500 program. Never done that.
Yeah.
So I told the team, we're going to have to learn as we go. I also had to change the org chart and some positions were eliminated.
Okay.
And that's really hard.
Not easy.
People that I love that have been with me for a while, but did not make sense in the new business model. That part was the hardest part ever.
Well, and working on a team, I'm sure they appreciated that process so much.
Yeah.
And I think it's really important as people listening to, most of them are, small business owners, entrepreneurs, maybe they run a team.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of wisdom that you just shared of that kind of slow, because there's excitement, right? You're kind of like feeling the shift.
I'm so excited, but they probably are nervous, and I need to remember that, right?
Yeah. That makes so much sense. Okay, so I'm thinking about, I think some of the challenge is for people working on their business. Like I said, most people have maybe they have a couple team members, or maybe it's just them, right? So they're listening to this. The challenge is I talk to people, is they're trying to work in their business and on their business, but they're also trying to grow their business.
Yes.
I think you've done a really good job of doing both. You lead a team, you lead 20 people, you said, but you're also like publicly leading things. How do you balance that? How do you find time? Now you're going to start coaching. So how do you find time to both grow your business, lead your business, and publicly lead people?
Sometimes I don't do it well. So sometimes I cry.
Yeah, I understand.
But overall, it's a few things. Number one, getting my priorities straight. What is the most important thing that I want to focus on right now? So at any given time in my business, the goal is not to have a million things going on and not having tons of promotions. Like next year, we are not promoting anybody else's programs. And I've done that since the beginning of my business. And I'm not asking anyone to promote my program. So that's like a big deal, because I needed to eliminate as much as I could have. And so when I need to be forward facing, front stage, as Michael Hyatt says, I need to be front stage. And then I am very involved in my business, but also strategy and the visionary. So I have really good people on my team. And I was this way 10 years ago when I had just a few people on my team. So I like that we're talking to someone that's a solopreneur and doing it all themselves, or someone who might have an EA on their team, right? Yeah. Or a VA. And so with that, you have to make sure that you remember less is more. So here at, when I'm going to be speaking here at an event soon, and one of my messages is less is more. I'd rather you have one signature offer that you do really good and you put your heart and soul into it and really build it up, then add something. So I work with a lot of women that are starting their businesses and they have way too much going on, way too many offers. They say yes to everything. They're here, they're there, and it's too much. So the first thing we do is we scale down the offers.
Now, can I ask something on that?
Yeah.
How do you figure out with the less is more? How do you figure out what you should be focused on?
Great question. Yes. So that's where we come back to data. I've noticed that a lot of the people I work with are a little bit confused about their numbers. What is bringing in the most money? What is bringing in the most profit? What is costing the most effort? So I have this woman I was talking to yesterday, and she said, Amy, I realized that the thing that is bringing in the least amount of money and takes the most effort, and I don't like it, is the thing I spend all my time on.
Goodness.
Where she has this other offer that could absolutely crush it, but it never gets her attention. So sometimes we don't take a beat and ask yourself, what is making the most money, the most profit, and taking the least or most effort? Make it make sense. And a lot of times it's something different than you think it is.
Yeah. So as you're thinking about, as you guys have been working, I know your team, you guys are very diligent in planning, which is really cool. As you're thinking about, as you're promoting this, again, with the messaging podcasts we talk about, are you guys walking in with some messages that you're going to kind of use to promote this? Have you guys strategized about that? Are you going to kind of adapt? Like, how are you going to balance that out about running that out with a marketing plan and kind of pushing that? How have you guys kind of discovered that? What are you learning about clarifying all that, starting with a problem?
Well, I wanted to go back a little bit for my last digital course launch in September. We used StoryBrand. And one thing that we did, and we used your guidance, is that I usually come out with, I've made $120 million in my business. I've sold tons of courses. I've had multi-million-dollar launches years in the past, and that's worked.
Yeah.
This year, when some people are struggling to pay for eggs and where they're getting laid off and it's hard out there, the last thing they need me to do is be flashy with my numbers, right? It might be true, but it's not necessary to talk about it. So one of the things we did early on this year is starting to shift and soften my messaging and make it more about the testimonials that are more relatable than my story, because I've been in it so long. So when I learned from that, and it worked really well for my recent launch, so I thought, how can we bring that into what we're doing? So what we're doing is focus groups. So and anybody can do this, even if you're a one woman or a one man show. I put out a message on social and said, I'm looking for 8 people that are under this criteria. I'd love to chat with you for an hour if you'd be willing to do so. And so we got 8 women on at a time, and I got to ask them a bunch of questions. And now with ChatGPT, I get the transcript, I do the analyze it. So good, right? And so focus groups have allowed us to see where we need to shift our message. And one of the things I've learned is a lot of people in my audience, they know all the strategies. They bought the courses, they've been to the coaching, they've done all the things, but they don't know what to focus on for an ROI. That came out in 3 focus groups I've done. So that's going to start to play into my message, how to know what to focus and when to work on it.
And then you can follow that as a guide and can kind of walk people through it. It's so good. So, okay, you mentioned earlier you're super excited about your new newsletter. You've changed the podcast name, and you're loving. I know you love Instagram.
I do.
I see you on there a lot with your husband.
I don't know if I love it, but I do because I have to.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think you're good at it.
I like it better than any other social.
That's fair.
There you go.
Someone, if you're thinking about it, what would be some advice there? How have you kind of found your cadence? Like you said, you changed the name of your podcast. You've launched a new newsletter. I think some of the problems is like in marketing and messaging is what I hear from people is I don't know what to say anymore. I've kind of ran out of things. How are you keeping that kind of, your cup full of like showing up and making great content that people want to interact with? Yes,
this is a challenge, definitely. So I only write my newsletter 1 week in advance. I don't batch it because I like it to be really timely. And in my newsletter, I tell a story every week at the beginning of the newsletter. It's a personal story related back to work. I'm not a natural storyteller. And as a people pleasers, when they tell stories, they want to hurry it up really fast. I don't want to take a lot of your time. Let me not get into too many detail. So we become terrible storytellers. So I told myself earlier, I need to learn how to tell better stories. And you all know this well. And so one of the best ways to become a great storyteller is to start telling stories every single week in a newsletter. So rain or shine, you're going to get a story from me. And there's many mornings where I lay in bed thinking, what is my story going to be this week? And sometimes it hits, sometimes it doesn't, but I've gotten into it consistently. So to answer your question, making it a consistent habit that no matter what, that newsletter is going out every Tuesday and I'm writing it 1 week in advance. Sometimes it's 1 day in advance if I really get behind, but the goal is. And so that consistency has gotten me better into really pushing myself to find the stories. Like they're there, but we always think they're not there because we're in a hurry. We're doing a million things. Take a moment. You've got the content. Another thing is we have pillars. So we have pillars as what it looks like as my life as the breadwinner in my family. That's unique to a lot of people. I talk about that a lot. I have another pillar on entrepreneurship, just in general. Another one of being a leader and what that looks like. Another one of being a wife, and my dog Scout is a pillar. People love when I talk about Hobie or Scout. He's pretty cute, right? Yeah. Both of them are pretty cute. Yeah. So I have pillars, and I know I'm going to pull from this pillar or that pillar. And that helps us a lot. I also have a list of 20 challenges that I know my ideal audience struggles with. And I'm always updating it as I learn more about her, but I'm pulling like, oh, that struggle, I can relate to that. Let me create a carousel post about that, or a reel. So we do that as well.
Okay, so selfishly, I'm going to ask this question for my wife, because I asked her. My wife's a coach. She runs her own. She used to run a business. She sold it. She now is a coach. What would be your advice? I think we've talked about this. We've talked about women in leadership.
Yes.
We've done some stuff with that. What would be your advice? You work with a lot of women and who are leading something. Maybe they're the breadwinners. Maybe they're this. What would be your advice you would give to a woman who's trying to run a coaching business, trying to run a small business? What would you tell them?
So this is going to the heart of it. But what I've noticed with a lot of women, and I've so been there, is that we put everybody first, rarely put ourselves first, and oftentimes we almost think that we don't deserve all the success.
Tell me more about that.
Okay, so I remember early on, I would have successful launches and instantly I'd think, oh, that was a fluke, or that's going to be taken away from me, or I don't deserve this much goodness. And so I'd constantly find like where the other shoe is going to drop. It was a normal thing to me. And so what I tell the women that I work with is, you are allowed to want more, even if your life is wonderful. I bet your wife's life is wonderful. You've got 2 precious little girls, a great husband. You're allowed to want more, and I want you to go for it. I also tell women, want money. Like, it's okay to want to make money. It's okay to want to build your wealth. And I think more women need to talk about making money. Because let me tell you a quick story. Yeah. Many, many years ago, I had a podcast where I talked about having my first $1 million year in my business. And that's a big milestone.
Yeah, amazing.
And most women, only 2% of women will make $1 million in their business. So it's an even bigger deal for women. So I did this podcast years ago, and this woman now is a dear friend of mine. She said, I heard your podcast. We didn't know each other. And she's like, she was a coach. And she said, I can make $1 million in a business. Like, wait, she just made I can do that? Yeah. This woman went on to make $50 million in her business in a year, $50 million in a year. But she said, and she has credited this to me, if I didn't hear you say you could do it, I don't know if I could think that I could. So that's why I talk about making money and women taking the lead, because if they don't hear it, they might not see themselves in it. So anyway, I just think that it's okay if we want more, even if we have a wonderful life.
Yeah, that's so good, Amy. I appreciate so much about you. You're willing, you give the gift of going first.
Yeah.
You've done that throughout your entire career. And I think that's very admirable. I appreciate that about you, that you want to help other people and you show them and you bring them along the journey. I think that's really cool. I'm really excited to see as you guys dip your toes into the coaching, go all in. You're not, hey, we're going all in.
All in. Here we go.
I'm going to hold you accountable to that. We're going to check back. No,
thank you.
Okay. So if someone's listening to this and they want to know more about how do I be a part of Amy Porterfield's coaching, where can they go? How can they learn more? How can they get on the email list?
Yes, I so appreciate you asking. It's my newsletter for sure. Okay. So amyporterfield.com/newsletter. Then you can kind of get a sense of what we're all about and what we're offering.
Okay, great. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. Again, always answering our calls. It's amazing. You always answer. It's awesome.
And it's easy that y'all live very close to me.
That's true. That helps. But we really appreciate you coming on and look forward to having you back again.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the StoryBrand Podcast. No matter where you are in your marketing and messaging journey, get the tools, the training, and the support you need to start clarifying that message at StoryBrand.com. And don't forget to follow and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and then leave a comment letting us know what resonated with you and what we can unpack to help your business grow in a future episode. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.